Welcome, everybody. Brother Goodwin here. Prophecy in the Spotlight. I got a verse for you that goes with our show today, a verse that we use a lot. I love this passage. Isaiah chapter 46, beginning in verse 8. Remember this, and show yourselves men. Bring it again to mind, O ye transgressors. Remember the former things of old. For I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me. And then listen to this. Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done. And there's more there, but we'll stop right there. Finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks of preparation and waiting and having a big conference in Shepherdsville, Kentucky with Doc, the DVD set is now here. This is Doc's Walk Through Time series on DVD for the first time ever. And you're going to want to get a copy of one of these on the website. Just go to Prophecy in the Spotlight. You'll see it there. And we've got Doc in the studio. We're going to talk about this 6 DVD set in today's program. We're going to talk about time. Stand by. Hey, welcome, Doc. Glad to have you on the show again today, Doc. I can't wait to talk about this. I can't wait to watch it. I was there for the filming of the whole thing. At the Monday night. Was that the third session? Fourth session. On the fourth DVD was worth the whole set. It's priceless. Redemption. You had the story of Ruth and Boaz. But anyway, let me get off that because I cried like a bit. I went back to the hotel. My wife and I still couldn't get over it. It was so moving, Doc. And I know it's not you. That was the Lord. And yes. These are wonderful. So we'll get on that in a second. Let's get the other stuff out of the way before we begin. Halloween is coming up. We did a week or two ago. We did a show about Halloween, and Doc has a CD. This is audio, CD. Halloween, the Christian and Halloween. She's got it up on the screen for you. And you can get that right there at Prophecy in the Spotlight. Just click on it. And for a donation of any amount, $10 or more, Doc is going to send that to you. And he's doing it free of charge. He's not keeping any of the money's going to go towards our network here and keeping us on the airways. Okay, so, and one other thing, Doc, let's mention to the folks, and that's something new we're getting ready to do. We're going on pray.com. It's an app. It's an app that comes right on your iPhone or your Android phone. It doesn't matter. You download the app. I think it's $7.99 a month, and it has some quite amazing features on there. There's a prayer thing on there. There's Bible reading on there. There's music. There's stuff to go to sleep with, Doc. Yeah. There's stuff for children, children's stories, and I haven't even looked at most of it. But there's a podcast or a radio where 24 hours a day that's going on live in the background. You can click on it. But of course, what we're most interested in, because we're YouTube and Rumble and TV. They contacted us, and Doc, you don't just call them and say, "Hey, can we get on your network?" Right. They don't have hardly any spots, and they had an opening, and they contacted me, and they're interested in our show, and so we're gonna go on. They have millions of subscribers. In fact, they're one of the fastest growing Christian apps in the world. It's unbelievable. And now it's very expensive, and we're going to need you folks' help. But we're going to get on there, and we want you guys to go and check out pray.com. And if you can, get the app, and so that you can watch us, share it with people. And if you're one of our monthly supporters, we need you to continue with us. And I'll tell you what we could use, though. We could use a little bump. If somebody would like to pay for a whole week, or maybe somebody out there has got $5,000 or $6,000 you'd like to pay for the first month. Boy, what a relief that would be for me and you, Doc.
What we're looking at is the fact that it will quadruple or even more than that the number of people that we're able to share our Bible teaching with.
And Doc, when I go on there and I look at it, there's usually over 12,000 people watching live.
Yeah.
Now that's a big number.
And it's something that's not limited. It's 24/7, anywhere, everywhere in the world.
Yeah. And it's the future because
Yes.
TV is going down every year. These kind of things are zooming up
Yes.
in fellowship. And so if you'd like to be a help with that, if you'd like to sponsor a week, I think it's over $1,000. I think it's $1,500 or more. If somebody wants to sponsor a week, or you'd like to sponsor a month, that would really be an encouragement to us because I have to raise this money. And pray about that. And we're in the last days. We're convinced of that. We're in the final lap of the church age.
That's it.
The Lord's coming soon. Let's get out there. Let's do everything we can to reach people. Okay? All right. So, Doc, let's get into your DVD here. Do we need to read anything on the back or just skip that?
No.
Okay. So there's a write-up on the back that tells about it, but Doc's going to help us with this. And, Doc, the people who are watching today, a lot of the folks, they know you from here. They know you from our TV show
Right.
here, our YouTube channel, our Rumble channel. But give them some background of your 60 years of ministry, just a little bit.
Well, I began as a young teenager. I started age 12, 13, being the song leader in our church. Age 15, I started teaching Sunday school. I took a little time out of the ministry to join the Air Force, and I spent 4 years during the Vietnam era. And then when I got out, went to Bible college. I'd been in the ministry all this time. And as a child growing up, my uncle was known. He started the Independent Baptist Church that I grew up in 1950. And I was about 3 years old at the time. And so he became known in Independent Baptist circles as a premier teacher on prophecy. So as a kid growing up, I heard about it. I was taught it. I mean, he had these hand-painted charts because he was such an artist, and I could still see those. And I had no idea that as a child, God was putting a foundation for my future ministry. I had no, because after I got into ministry as pastoring and talking to other pastors, I began to realize what I thought everybody knew, the greater majority of them had no idea of. And so then I had the opportunity to get involved in creation and science and other things of that nature. But anyway, it was, the background is I'm just a farm boy. And I tell folks all the time, if God had left me alone, I'd still be a farmer.
Yeah, I believe it because you still are.
I love
you got a pretty big garden.
But from that, an agricultural background really does help an individual understand some things of Scripture better, because so much of your Bible is based on agricultural things and principles.
I said that just last Sunday at a church up in Cherville, Indiana. I said, the reason we miss so much in our Bibles when we don't understand farming.
That's it. That's it.
The gleanings, the harvest, the
tares.
And
my dad, of course, was a farmer as well as other things, but he was such a godly man that if it was harvest time, he would stop the corn or whatever he was getting out of the field. He'd stop the tractor right there, walk to the house, clean up, and we'd be the first ones at church every service.
Yeah.
So my background is I was born, grew up, and have known nothing but serving the Lord in church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us a little about. I know you pastored in Texas. But then there's the Creation Museum with Dr. Carl Ball.
Yes.
That had a big influence in your life. Tell them a little bit.
Well, I worked for several different preachers in different areas of the ministry, usually as music and youth. Then I started a church in Centralia, Illinois, New Testament Baptist Church, and it's still going today. and that was, my goodness, close to 50 years ago now. And then I pastored other churches. But I was in Dallas, Texas area in Duncanville. I was the associate pastor to begin with, and then became the pastor at Grace Baptist Temple. And we were getting ready to have a youth camp, and we were a large enough ministry that we could bring 2 or 3 other churches in and put together a good youth camp. So we rented a campground, and my pastor was a good friend with Dr. Carl Ball, so we had Dr. Ball come and be our camp speaker. And during that week, they took a day off and an afternoon, and he took my pastor at the time, who's with the Lord now, Brother Ronald Jenkins, and they went to the Paluxy River, because my pastor never believed dinosaurs ever existed.
Yeah.
He believed they were nothing but plaster pears hanging on a wire in a museum to teach evolution.
And I think that's where I was for years.
Yeah, and so
until Kent Hovind, I think.
Doc welted him down there, and they paid $25 to the farmer. Doc knew where to go. They turned the rock over, and there was a dinosaur print. And so we decided that we'd have Doc come back in a few months for a revival. And during the day, we would have an archaeological dig. And, of course, he'd preach at night. Well, being the associate pastor, being a farmer, knowing how to run heavy equipment of all kinds, I was elected to be field supervisor of an archaeological dig. At the time, I had no idea what that meant. I just thought it meant you're the ones going to get dirty, and you're the ones going to move big rocks and move a lot of overburdened dirt with a backhoe. And so we would go down there and dig, and then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we'd go back. And so I believe it was Tuesday afternoon, getting ready for Wednesday. Doc was about ready to say, well, we've done enough. We've uncovered, I don't remember how many dinosaur tracks. And so he said, maybe one more day. And so one of the young men that was in our youth department, Randy and I, he stayed to help me. And we were going to turn some other rocks over and get some of the marl layer moved out of the way, about a 4-inch layer of marl. And it was during that time, as we was doing that, that I began to uncover a depression. And I told the young man that was with me, and I said, this is not like any of these dinosaur tracks that we've been finding. And in a moment, I began to realize, boy, this has got a kind of the shape of a heel. And so we stopped right there and went back. I told Doc about it. He said he didn't sleep a wink that night. The next morning, we went down there and uncovered the first human footprint. So that pretty well changed my life.
And that was in the same area
It was
where the dinosaurs.
1981.
So in other words, dinosaurs and man.
We uncovered a dinosaur track, and then about 18 inches away, here was a human footprint. We uncovered 5 human footprints and the dinosaur trail, and at one point the human had stepped inside the dinosaur track.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
a-
from
that's
that moment
famous.
on, my life's been changed.
Yeah, and all that to say this, all of these things led you to this here,
Yes.
this DVD,
It
and this
did.
series, Walk Through Time. So let's talk about that. How did this Walk Through Time ministry? You've been doing this like 15 years, I think.
No, I've been involved in 40 years.
No, I mean
Oh,
this here, the Walk Through
I've
Time.
been doing the Walk Through Time since 2010.
Okay, so that's 13 years, something like that.
Yeah.
If my math is correct. don't. I wouldn't trust my math. But what got you into this Walk Through Time, where you go from Genesis to
Right.
Revelation?
Well, as I said, Carl Ball, he resigned his church in St. Louis and became a member of the church I was pastoring. And we started the Creation Evidences Museum. Today it's called the Creation Evidences Museum of Texas for various reasons. And from there, we've got an unbelievable complex and research institute. So I had been there, and then when I resigned, I was traveling, speaking on science in the Bible. I'd always had an affinity to science, and man, I just loved teaching people on science of the Bible and countering evolution. And then I became a pastor of the church that I work out of now, and God blessed that ministry greatly. And I was preaching out in 2010. I was preaching out several Sundays a year and sharing some of these things with people. And I was preaching in Missouri at a conference where Scripture was being sent out. And a good preacher friend who was a little older than I was, but we'd been in the ministry about the same era of time, I asked him to come to my motel room that night. I wanted to talk to him. I was so burdened. I knew God was getting ready to do something. I didn't know what it was. And we talked, and he said, "Preacher, can I give you something to think about?" And I said, "Well, sure, Brother Jim." He said, "Why don't you take what you know about science in the Bible, what you know about all your historical research, what you know about documentation of things from the Roman archives, and why don't you take the things you know, why don't you work those into a series?" And we began writing down. I think we wrote about 15 different names, and it seemed like the Lord led us to call it Walk Through Time Ministries. And that's how it got started. And so in 2011, I think I missed 10 Sundays out of my church as a pastor
Doing this series.
doing this in the early days. And then I resigned. My son became the pastor. I had a major surgery that the Lord stepped in, or I wouldn't be here today. And so I resigned in 2012, and I've been full-time in it since then. Probably 150 different churches or more that I've taken on a walk through time.
Did you have any idea it was going to become this important
No.
to you?
No.
It was just like a Bible study. I'll preach it at some church, but
It started out,
evolved.
the first church I went to, it's like you could just see people's eyes go like this. And that's before I used PowerPoint or anything. It was just teaching and preaching. Yeah. And preachers would say, "My goodness, preacher, I've never heard any of this." And preachers would come to visit the meeting, and they say, "You got to come to my church. Man, my folks need it, you know." And it grew into this.
And it's never been on DVD. Now, some churches have recorded it.
Churches have recorded it.
But it's never been professionally done and
never
put on
been
a
done
DVD
like
until
this.
now.
No.
And this was done.
I wouldn't let them do that because it's kind of like preaching the same message at two different churches. It's never the same exact message.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've had people that have literally followed me. If I'm within 50 or 75 miles of where they're going to come to that meeting because they want to hear it again. And I've had people say, "Well, you didn't say that at my church."
Yeah.
You know, and so I wouldn't let them record it. And then you, along with some others, have said, "You know, preacher, you're getting older." Well, thank you. Anyway, you ought to preserve this in some way. And so that's why I've agreed to do what we're doing.
I called Pastor David Jordan in Shepherdsville.
Good friend of ours.
And I shared the burden with him. I said, "Well, you know, this thing's not on DVD." You seemed at that time like you were kind of going downhill a little bit.
I wasn't.
You seem totally different now.
I'm feeling much better.
I said, "You know what? One of these days he's going to be gone, and we're going to wish we'd gotten that series." I had never heard them all.
Right.
I'd only heard a little bit of it. So I called Brother Jordan, and he said, "You're exactly right, Brother Goon. We've had him do that here before, but it's been a few years, and let me get some dates, and I'll call you back." And of course, he did.
And I appreciate it greatly. And Brother Spencer Smith, a good friend who is a member of that church, had a part in it. And Sister Tiffany and Brother Chris have helped me in all of this. But I also have it not only on the DVDs, but I also have it on a flash drive.
Yes, we forgot to didn't mention it.
Yeah,
There's a
it's on a
flash drive in here.
Yeah.
A little USB thing, if folks can see that over here.
Yeah. And it has all of
Just a little flash drive you stick in your computer, USB. Yep. All six of the all sessions are on there.
Yeah, you put it in your computer, and the menu will come up, and just pick whichever you want, and your DVD player inside to just Anyway,
And 6 different DVDs. They're
Yes.
all almost an hour each.
probably, well, the one on Monday night that you're talking about is a little longer. It's probably an hour and close to 10 minutes,
Okay.
70, at least close to 70
Yeah.
minutes. And what it is, I begin in Genesis, and we walk through time. That's why I call that. Begin with eternity past, which is before Genesis 1. And I know there are people that believe in the gap theory and believe there were another creation, but that's for another story. But
And we don't believe that.
no. And so we started in eternity past, and we begin in the first session with Genesis, the week of
You
creation.
spend some time on Genesis 1:1.
I spend some time on Genesis 1:1 because it's so important. And then I spend some time in this on each day of creation, not nearly as much as I'm getting ready to do a DVD set on the week of creation, and I'll be able to spend considerably more time just on each of the days. And the first session is the week of creation and seeing the magnificent work of God, the ability of how frequency has an impact on molecules of water. And that's what God started with. And God said, that's the frequency. And from God's frequencies into the water, he brought about all of creation. And so that's the first session. The second session is the fall of man in the garden, and bringing you to the building of the ark in Noah's world, the devolving of humanity into every man's imagination was evil only continually. And then I talk about what we've discovered in our research of how to build a marine vessel by the Bible standards, and for people to understand what gopher means, their eyes come on. They realize it's not a species of wood, it's a manner in which wood is assembled. Then we talk a little about the flood. Then the third session is after the flood, the realm of Nimrod. And we talk about Mystery Babylon, how all of that set the stage for what we see history to our present time and yet into the future.
The first 3 sessions, and I remember this. I remember we were laughing about it. We'd gone all 3 of the 6 sessions. You were still in Genesis 11.
And we're going to walk all the way through the Bible.
Yeah.
And so then the fourth session starts with the calling of Abraham and takes you to the birth of Christ.
So after the 4th session, you finally made it to
I
the
finally
final
made it into the
27
New
books.
Testament.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we make a quick walk through some of the highlights, because what God is illustrating is he's choosing genealogy for the purpose, as Hebrews chapter 10 says, to provide a body for Christ. So he's choosing genealogy for the body of Christ. And at the same time, he's choosing geography. And so we walk through how God is choosing both of that to bring everything to the Tower of the Flock, where Jesus is going to be born.
Yeah.
And then we blend in the story of Ruth, which is all about redemption. And then we have the birth of Christ. To me, it's the highlight of the series.
And it certainly was at the session in the.
It is everywhere I go, because it's so moving to see how awesome God is to have orchestrated, governed over, and even when the seed line to the Savior got down to one individual, God always keeps his promise. Then the next one is a walk through the church age,
Yeah.
giving you some history, giving you an understanding of especially how that we now in America have the liberties we have because of religious rights that wasn't in the original Constitution. And we talk about how we got to where we are. And then at the end of the fifth session, we bring in the prophecy of Israel, because as the church age is coming now into the Laodicean era, God is keeping his Bible promises concerning Israel, and he's bringing them back into the picture again, and how that as the church is about to exit, Israel is going to be in place for the things of the 70th week.
And that's your last session is prophecy.
The last session is the book of Revelation, which, by the way, is a whole lot more than just the tribulation.
Right.
It's also the millennial reign, and then it's also the last 2 chapters is all about a new heaven and a new earth.
Yeah.
And then we move into eternity beyond.
Well, Doc, that's a pretty good summary.
That's what the series is
Yeah,
all about.
Great summary. Folks, these are on the website. You can get either the DVD set or you can get the USB drive that plugs in your computer, all of them right on there, or get them both. Just go to Processing Spotlight. You'll see them right on the front page there. Just click on it. It'll take you straight to Doc's bookstore. You can order these. He'll get them right out to you. You're going to love them. You're going to, especially Mondays, the fourth session on redemption, the story of Ruth and Christ coming on the scene. It's powerful. Folks, we're on YouTube and Rumble. I want you to know you can always find us if you miss a TV show. And by the way, we won't always be here. We're not sure how much longer we'll be with CTN. And you're going to want to know how to find us. YouTube, Rumble. All of our shows are there. You can watch them anytime, free.
And be sure and tell them you're getting ready to make available a month's worth on DVD.
We have another way. If you don't have internet and you can't watch us on pray.com where we're going, pray.com on an app, or you can't watch YouTube, we contact us. We'll tell you how you can get every month shows, all 4 shows every month on a DVD that you can plug in your DVD player. And so if we're gone from here, which is very possibly going to happen, you can still get our shows. You can contact us, call the 800 number, or email us, or text us, whatever. And you can, we'll tell you how cheap it is that we can send you that DVD every month with all the shows, so you won't miss anything. Doc, we got a minute left. Yeah. What's the future for Dr. Hilton and your ministry?
I never dreamed that when God gave me this building and all of this, that we'd be doing what we're doing now.
Me neither.
And my health has improved recently, partly because I've not been on the road for 6 months. But I'm feeling better. I'm getting back out on the road starting this week. But I think writing material and producing more DVDs of teaching in the future. Yeah. We're trying to get ready to get started on what's called a walk through time with Doc, and it'll be a blog on YouTube, and maybe develop into some other things to go along with it. But where I can do some teaching without having to do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the future.
Awesome. Well, we sure appreciate you, Doc. You're a tremendous asset to the ministry here. And it just wouldn't be the same without Doc. And people love you. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Keep your eyes on them skies.